There is a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being in a room where you are never fully seen. And it's not the exhaustion of hard work, not the exhaustion of long hours. It is the exhaustion of constantly proving that you belong somewhere. And that should have been obvious from the moment that you walked in. I spent years in rooms like that. And today I want to talk about what those years cost me to stay and what it gave me when I finally said enough and then I left. But first, let me describe what I mean. When I say rooms that require you to constantly prove your existence, because this is not just about a job, it is about any space where your presence is more tolerated, but it is never celebrated, where you can feel that the moment you walked in that you are being measured, where you have to work twice as hard for half the recognition, where your ideas, they get dismissed quickly and often ignored, and then those same ideas are repeated by someone else, and then suddenly they are brilliant. And it's also where you are never quite included in the way that makes you feel like you actually belong. But you stay. You stay because somehow you feel like leaving feels like you're giving up, because staying, it feels like you're fighting. And you were taught that fighters do not quit. And as an immigrant woman, I navigated rooms like this for most of my professional life. And there were rooms where my accent was the first thing that people noticed. Rooms where I had to be exceptional just to be considered adequate. Rooms where I was the only one who looked like me. And I felt the weight of that every single day. And I remember that I kept trying. I kept showing up. And I also kept proving, I don't know what I was proving, but I also believed that eventually all of what I was doing, it was going to be enough. And if I was being consistent enough, patient enough, eventually they will see me. Here's what I did not understand at the time. Every day that I spent trying to be seen in a room that was never going to see me, it was a day that I was not building something of my own. Every ounce of energy I spent proving was energy that I did not spend creating. Every morning I walked into that room and embraced for what the day would require of me. It was a morning. I was not walking toward what was actually mine. And here's the cost that is the hardest for me: staying in rooms that do not celebrate you. It teaches you to stop celebrating yourself because you start to internalize the message. If they do not see it, maybe it's because it's not there. If I keep showing up and then nothing changes, maybe the problem is me. If I have proven myself this many times and it's still not enough, what does that say about my worth? And then as a result, you start to shrink. And you're not doing that all at once. You are slowly doing this because as you keep showing up, you are internalizing those things and you are slowly shrinking. You are doing it quietly and you are doing it in ways that you do not even notice until one day you look at yourself and you realize you have gotten very small, and you've gotten small inside a space that was never built for you. And here's the moment that changed everything. And with me, change is never dramatic. It did not happen in a big revelation. It was quietly accumulating. It was a number of moments where I allowed myself to finally see what has always been true. This room was not going to change. Not because the people in it were terrible, but because the room itself was not built for someone like me. And no amount of proving was going to rebuild it. And then I asked myself a question. I had been avoiding it for a very long time. What if the right move is not to try harder, but to just leave? And for the first time, leaving, it did not feel like quitting for me. It felt like absolute clarity, because here is what I finally understood. Staying in a room that does not celebrate you, it is not perseverance. It is self-abandonment. You are choosing the room over yourself. And you are doing that every single day. But you deserve better than that. You do. Because when I left, something unexpected happened. All of a sudden, I didn't feel lost anymore. I felt like I returned something to myself, like something that had been compressed for a very long time. And finally, I had room to expand again. And I remembered things about myself that I had forgotten, that I had not celebrated in a long time. And I remember that I was someone with ideas worth having, with a perspective worth sharing, with a presence that did not need to be earned. In every room I entered, it did not need to be earned. And I also understood something about the rooms that came after. The right room, it feels different from the moment that you walk in. You do not spend the first hour calculating how much of yourself is acceptable here. You do not leave at the end of the day exhausted from the performance that you give. You walk in, you contribute, you are seen, and you walk out feeling like more. You do not walk out feeling like less. That is right, the right room does. And you cannot find it while you are still in the wrong place, trying to fit in, putting up a performance. So here's what I want to say to the women who are still in that room, the one where she is always proving, always earning, always waiting to be celebrated, in a space that has shown her again and again that it is not going to happen. I want to ask you something. How much of yourself are you willing to leave behind in a room that was never built for you? Because here's what I know. The right room exists. So there is no doubt about that. I want you to believe that. The room where your presence is not a question exists, where your ideas are not dismissed exists, where you do not have to perform exists. You do not have to perform just to be acceptable. But you cannot build that room or find that room while you are still pouring all your energy into the wrong one. So in this case, leaving is not giving up. Sometimes leaving is the most powerful thing that you will ever do. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Webley. I am a launch and funnel strategist. So drop a comment below and tell me, What room have you been staying in that you know and you feel in your gut that it is time to leave? I want to read all your answers and hit subscribe. And with that, I will see you in the next video.